Well, I've had to do a little bit of running today. But I did manage to get the tires mounted on the rims. And here in a little bit, I'm going to try to get them on this truck. I'm sure this would be a time it would be so nice to have a shop. In the glare. But the shop part, I'm working on that. There's a little building in here. It used to sell batteries and do a little mechanic work back in the day. It's closed up and nobody's using it, but it's a nice little location and the building is still salvageable, I think. If I can talk the owner out of it, I might have me a little workshop here close. But right now we're gonna have to put these tires on here in the yard, and it is hot. So we had another good nice surprise. They told me that they had done the brakes on it a few years back, and it appears that that's actually the case. Of course, it did have a good pedal and it stopped straight, but it was kind of nice to see that still actually in good shape. There's no lip. So somebody had turned these drums before, and there's no grooves in it. Yep, actually not bad. And the lining is pretty thick, so somebody had replaced it here, and that's been a few years back, but still. And I had pulled this boot back on this wheel cylinder. I'm not sure. Holy smoke. This ain't easy. No. It's got some buildup in there, some crud, but it's not wet. It just kind of looks like maybe it's on that outer lip. A little bit of rust. But I don't see it. It's not damp or anything like that wheel cylinder is leaking. But anyway, once I get back to a shop, I'm going to go ahead and redo the brakes anyway. I'll reuse the linings and stuff. This will be an easy job. I'll just install some new wheel cylinders and master cylinder, and you'll notice that these brake lines, see, they're dry rotted, they're cracked. Now that's just the outer protective layer of that hose, but still, they degrade on the inside too. And then you have a reinforcement layer, and then you have this outside layer that protects the whole thing. But it's pretty obvious these things have been on there, and that wouldn't even surprise me. Yep, it's just coming apart. It wouldn't surprise me if those are the original hoses. So you don't want to risk your life for, you know, a $10 hose. You got two front and one back. You know, you're talking delivered, you know, less than $40 for all three of them. And the wheel cylinders on this thing were ridiculously cheap. Even new AC Delco and Ray Bestis brands. So, and I think a master cylinder, a Ray Bestis master cylinder, which was an identical replacement, wasn't even just a functional replacement, it's identical, I think was like $38. And then wheel cylinders and hoses, I mean, you're talking on the high side delivered, you know, you're talking $125 or $150. And because the shoes are in such good shape and the drums don't even need to be turned, and that's free, all I got to do is just because they had repacked them. I'll pull that dust cover off and see what it looks like in there. If it really has been repacked and is clean, I'll just pull off the shoes and clean up the backing plate and replace the wheel cylinders, and then go back with all the original hardware after I clean it up. But I'll freshen up the hydraulic portion of this thing. That's just too dangerous to drive around with something when you got hoses that look like that. Putting yourself and somebody else's life at risk. But yeah, so far I was actually pretty impressed. I'm getting ready to put the wheels and tires on it. So while I had it off, I thought I'd just take a double peek and see if what that guy told me was indeed true. And it was. Everything he told me was pretty much spot on. Pretty good guy, actually. So I'll know what to get now. I'll just get wheel cylinders and hoses and the master cylinder. And then after we do the exhaust leak, then we'll take care of the brakes on this thing. I've got a friend of mine that I've met up here that actually has a farm with a 30 by 50 building on it that he's having reskinned, just so he can protect the building because it's a pole barn. But it's got a concrete floor in it. And he knew I was looking for a shop, and the other day he actually offered it to me for me to be able to go there and work in it and use it, because he said he doesn't have any use for it. And he's a super guy. So I'll probably have a semi-permanent temporary shop for a while, and it's just a couple of miles outside of town from here. And then I can start doing some real projects. But the guy that's reskinning, or the group of guys reskinning that building, are doing it on the side. So they've only got half the building done, so it could be a few days or a few weeks. So right now I'll have the parts coming, and we'll put some tires on this thing. I'll get it inspected. I'll probably have to wait till Monday to get it inspected. And then after I get it inspected, I'll get some, well, I have to get insurance first, get it inspected, and then I'll go get plates because I've already got it titled. Yeah, I don't think that yeah, we'll start detailing this thing out so I can get down to see what needs to be replaced and what doesn't. Probably put a set of shocks on this thing because I have those are not the originals because the markings on it are too modern. But they definitely look like that they've seen better days. And if I can find some inexpensive spacers that just give me about an inch lift on the front of this thing. I found some cast spring. Basically it's a lift, but it was a 2.5 inch lift, and I don't want to go up 2.5 inches in the front because then I'd have to raise it back. So if I can find maybe a spring isolator or something that fits this thing, just to kind of give me because a little bit back there is a big difference out here on the at the wheel. I just want to level the truck out. All right, we're going to stick some tires on this thing, and then we'll see some pictures of what it looks like with the new wheels on it, and then y'all can help me decide on the dog dish caps. All right, guys, I'm a bit on the fence here. I'm not quite sure what I think about these rims and tires. Maybe without anything on the center, maybe it just looks naked. But I'm not quite sure. And I'm also kind of curious about the rear wheel, how it fits in that wheel opening. This tire should be the exact same diameter as the original equipment tire that came off of it. I'm going to get a close-up here, show you where. I don't think it's going to rub, but it's so far forward. And then I'm going to take one of the old caps. I think I can buy those clips and actually mount them on here, but I'd like some opinions. Yeah, after looking at this a little bit closer on that driver's side, how that rear wheel is so close to the front of that fender opening. This is the passenger side, and that gap on this bed is a bit smaller on this side. And it kind of shows up here in the wheel well. This one looks a little bit better centered. Got a little bit more gap, and these tires are virtually the same diameter. I think that the bed is just sitting on this truck a little crooked, because I just don't see any evidence that there's any frame damage, or that this thing ever got in any kind of a collision where it would have tweaked this frame. I think the bed's just sitting on there fine. Again, I don't think that tire is going to hit. It just looks a little odd in that wheel opening. But if you notice up here, so you got a bit more of a gap, and you can kind of even tell when you look down the back of this cab from this bed. I think that the bed is just kind of tweaked, kind of sitting on there a little bit crooked. Makes me feel a little better. I think that's something that can be fixed, and probably going to be easier to tweak this bed back once I get that big piece of steel out of the back of it, because that thing is, I'm sure, is extremely rigid now that it's got a piece of flat steel literally welded all the way around the perimeter. I don't think you're going to move that bed at all until that thing is out of there. But I think that that's where the problem's at. I think the bed's just kind of sitting on there a little bit cattywampus. But anyway, again, I keep walking around this truck. I'm just not quite sure what I think about those wheels. Maybe it's just because it's just different. Without the wheel covers, it just kind of looks like something's missing. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Mind you, these are in poor condition, so I'm going to find some better ones or do a little bit of massaging on these. But I have seen those center clips that are on the original tires available for replacement, and it wouldn't be anything to add it to these wheels. But I don't know. What y'all think? Does it look kind of odd with those other little dog ears sticking out? Because this rim is actually made to accept the one that fits on the outside and not the inside. I don't know. Just somebody else's opinion. Again, I'm not so sure what I feel about the rims in general and the tires. And it could be just the color. Since the other tires are black, or the rims are black, and these are kind of a gray, they kind of stand out more. I mean, I don't think they look bad, but again, just kind of changed the whole truck. And the part showed up, the gasket set showed up for that exhaust leak. So if all goes well, I'm going to try to get on this thing either tomorrow or the day after, and we'll do a detailed video pulling that thing off, and cross my fingers that that bolt is not broke off in the intake side of that manifold. Because by the time I try to go buy enough stuff to get it out, it might just be as easy to track down a used manifold and get it here that doesn't have a bolt broke off into it. All right. Well, I spent all day long doing a bunch of other stuff, and in between time, I'm running back and forth out in the middle of nowhere to grab these rims and tires and go back into town and get them mounted, and trying to get them on before it got dark. So, man, I'd appreciate somebody's opinion. Yay or nay, thumbs up or thumbs down on what these rims look like. Y'all take care.